Note the title, folks. This is about how you are going to take charge of your downtown. I want to cram a 3-credit, 13-week grad course in real estate development at U of M for architects and urban planners and MBAs and law students and public policy engineering students into 20 minutes. And I'm going to give you the highlights. Things that you can do in this current environment to take control of your downtown, take control of your community, and make it very livable, very walkable, and very attractive to not just you, but those young, bright people who are perhaps graduating and leaving and you hope will come back. What else you see? Please, call it out. Big sidewalks. Trees. No cars. Actually, cars. We keep the cars. This is downtown Ann Arbor, obviously. A few more things. What do you see?
Big stages.
Big stages. Good. What else? A lot of people interacting. How about the age of the people? Very diverse. What else you see? A few more. Urban forestry, landscaping, flowers, trees. This didn't happen overnight. And we had our little version of the Amway, DeVos, and Van Ansdale family in Ann Arbor, Elizabeth Dean, who gave us $1 million to put in these trees and to recreate the streetscape with the undulations. The outdoor dining, until 15 years ago, was outlawed in Ann Arbor. So this takes a long time. It evolves. And I want to give you the key tools to make this sort of thing happen in your downtown, okay? So many of you have had to deal with subdivision development on the edge, shopping center development out near the highway, losing major anchor tenants from your downtown to the edge. This last 50 years, this drivable suburbanism has changed the complexity, changed the ground rules, changed the health of your downtowns. Some of you are probably dealing with this in much more dire circumstances than you'd like. This subdivision development and its tax ratables and its positive impacts, don't expect it to come back, folks. It's not going to happen. And I'm not sure you want it to happen. What city is this? Northville. What do you see here? A lot of the same. Again, it's historic rehab. Ideally, it's the second floor historic rehab, not just the first floor. It's a sense of place. It's landscaping. It's lots of people. It's a focus. And the beauty of this, as we'll see, is it attracts not just the people who have lived there for decades and makes it very appealing for you as city managers, mayors, and government officials, but it makes it very attractive to grads from these high schools to come back later on and to raise their family. And ideally, come back to work. The valedictorian, the top 10% of all your high school classes in your towns, how do you get them to come back? They want to do something. Over the years past, when they got out of college, they all wanted to go to the nightlife, the big cities, the Chicagos, the San Franciscos, the Cincinnatis, the Indianapolis. Grand Rapids was popular, certainly New York and Chicago. Now they want to go to Detroit. And they want to go to Detroit because they want to express their craft. They want to do something. They want to make a difference. They're not in it for the money as much as the chance to reflect their values, to have fun, to intermingle with lots of other people like them, but to make a difference. And your communities and those downtowns are, if they haven't become a Northville, have got those same potential attractions. Whoops, wrong way, sorry. Some of you have got the misconception that, well, they're going to leave our town, they're going to go to college, they're going to go to the great cities, but we'll get them back when they want to raise a family. Don't count on it. Look at this picture. I took a bunch of grad students to Chicago to study Wicker Park, Wrigleyville, Lincoln Park, Bucktown, the best neighborhoods of Chicago, and asked them to understand all those forces so we could begin to populate Detroit and some of those neighborhoods with those same characteristics. And those characteristics of those best neighborhoods of Chicago apply to your downtown. Doesn't have to be a big city. It could be just a very critical mass of a downtown, like a Northville. And one of the things we saw as we walked around Chicago, brand new public school. So what's happening are these people are spending their 1,000 nights. I think Dan Gilmartin's talked about that to you in the past. They get out of college, they want to spend 1,000 nights having a lot of fun, working real hard, finding relationships, eventually getting married, eventually settling down, taking longer than ever did in the past. But they're not going back home because they say, if I raise my kids in this urban environment, I've got such a much richer palette of opportunity for them to grow and experience. Obviously, this assumes that you solve the safety problem, and obviously it assumes you have good schools. So don't expect your kids to come back just because that's where they grew up and the schools are better. This is Google in Ann Arbor. Knowledge-based jobs do not have to necessarily come to the big cities, the Chicago, the New Yorks, or the Ann Arbors, or the Grand Rapids, or the Traverse cities, or the Detroits. They can come to the smaller cities, particularly now that we got Comcast and connectivity. But you want these people there because they add excitement, they add vitality, they add diversity, they add payroll, and they begin to plug into the nonprofits, the school boards, the recreational foundations, the YMCAs. You have got to attract these people. And if you're not attracting these people, you got a real problem. Folks, I'm trying to give you a script, a recipe that doesn't require a lot of state money, doesn't require federal money, doesn't require you to solve your suburban edge or your rural factor. But what do you do with your downtown? The first thing you got to figure out are who are your community champions. Not naysayers, champions. You as a mayor or a city administrator or city council person can be a champion to an extent. But you really can't be the Amway champion, or the Elizabeth Dean and Ann Arbor champion, or the Mott champion in Flint. You've got to find some community leaders who will take the risk, put down the downsayers, the naysayers, the pessimists, the cynics, and say, this is what we got to do. It might be a high school grad who made it big. Larry Page, who founded Google, came back in Ann Arbor, moved Google into downtown Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor's never been the same once Google started there because it's such a software mecca now. And Google set the example. So you've got somebody in your history that has a wonderful memory of growing up in that town. Or they're there now and they love that town. And they're optimistic and they take charge, and ideally they got a checkbook. You have got to create the downtown plan. And it's not Euclidean zoning. It's not the office park or industrial park is on the edge of town. The apartment complex is over here. The cheap single family is here. The multifamily apartments are here. You don't give a damn about what uses are where. You want to create a mixed-use, walkable downtown around your character buildings. And Ann Arbor took 5 years to do this. It takes a long time, but you got to get started. And you are the uniquely qualified person to make this thing happen. You've got to have a vision, a master plan that's grassroots up, that everybody has bought into for the most part. You'll never get everybody. Never will you get everybody. But you've got to have those leaders help create the plan. And it's got to be built around your downtown. You've got to go back to why was this town founded in the first place? You have to create the plan. You have to create the incentives. And those developers that are building bulldozer bait on the edge of town, the shopping centers or the cruddy apartments or the stuff that's just not sustainable and not good architecture and not likely to last 50, 100 years, those developers need to be incentivized, or you got to find new ones, to come and redo your downtown according to your master plan. Dexter did a wonderful job with the DDA, rehabbing their historic, taking the dam out of the river, creating a kayak run in the river, putting their new farmers market and their new library overlooking the river. All local, I'm not sure they had millage support from the community to do it. The DDA functions like a typical DDA, but this has become really a bedroom community to Ann Arbor, just like Chelsea, just like Saline to a certain extent. I think the next generation, these towns will begin to attract their own bright millennial workers, their own software people. Prices are a little cheaper. They have their downtown characteristics. They got their coffee house. They've got their bars. They've got the natural resources. So they got a lot of the elements to be self-sustaining all by themselves without being a bedroom community. So I've said, look at where the city was founded. Look at those original buildings. Town squares from New England are typically the library, the church, the city hall, and the park. And then we began to add commerce and historic buildings. And people had their shop on the first floor and maybe on the second, or they lived on the second floor. How do you redo these buildings? How do you redo that town square in the current vernacular, the current uses? How do you take a church and turn it into a bar or a restaurant or a YMCA or a cultural venue like they did in Petoskey with some of those churches? So you want to bring these elements because your goal is to do anything you can, whatever you have to do to begin to attract those young workers. That demographic is more important than anything else as you pull together and implement this master plan for downtown. You want to get those bookend generations, which are the millennials, the 25 to 35-year-old at one end, and the active seniors, the 55 to 85 at the other. Those are the bookend generations. But the more important of the two is the millennial crowd, the 25 to 35-year-old. Let me emphasize, any building 50 years or older, do not bulldoze it. Absolutely save any character building because it gives you authenticity, gives you uniqueness, even if it's a gas station. Don't bulldoze any old buildings. They've got those brick walls and those hardwood floors. And don't count on the car. Half of you are going to want a car. The younger crowd, they don't want a car. They look at $7,500 a year for a car and say, that could pay for my apartment. That could pay for my nightlife. Okay? I don't need the cost, the risks of driving around. I don't want to waste the time. I want to rub shoulders on the sidewalk, in the bars, in the cafes, with my demographic, and I don't want to have to get in a car to go anywhere. I want my grocery store, I want my hardware store, I want my drugstore, I want my bars, I want my cafes, I want to get on my running shoes, I want to run from my downtown flat out to the woods or to the water. I do not want to be dependent on a car. I want to have great bike trails, I want to have great running trails. So the whole role of government is being redebated. And the role of government, how that's going to end up, particularly at the federal level, it's going to be very different. You can't wait. You got to get on with your local plan, take charge of your resources, find your local strengths, local abilities, and begin to make things happen. We do have some strengths. I've never been more excited about being in Michigan. The fact that agriculture is so strong, the fact that smart manufacturing is so strong. My concluding slide, it's up to you. Begin to get the master plan, begin to find the site, focus on your downtown, get development ready, take advantage of low interest rates. Happy to help. I've got a lot of UM students that would love to come to one of your towns to help you get some ideas if you need help at all. And with that, I'm done. Okay, great.